Public transit in Polk County is provided by the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, operating as Citrus Connection, which includes public transportation within the county, including Winter Haven Area Transit rural routes servicing Bartow and Fort Meade, as well as paratransit services. Coming up on Polk Place, we will learn about an initiative to restructure and simplify the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. Make sure you stick around. Welcome to Polk Place. I'm your host, Brian Lacey, and joining me in studio from Citrus Connection is Aaron Dunn. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Very happy to be here.
First timer on here.
Yep, that's true. First time today. Yep.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about what you do with Citrus Connection.
So starting last November, I became the Director of Revenue Services. Essentially my job is to ensure that the operation happens. So like the service area that you mentioned in your intro, I'm responsible for making sure that the service on the street occurs every single day, that we're fully staffed, and that we execute what our decision makers and our elected officials have given us to deliver to the community. And that's what I'm responsible for. I've been with the district now for almost 4 years. I started just in paratransit, but this change last November is really what started all of this that we're going to talk about today. Talk
to me a little bit about some of the hurdles that you face with this job. One thing that we do understand in government is we got to do it better, cheaper, and faster. And there's so many variables when it comes to providing transit that you can't predict in the future. So talk to me a little bit about those problem areas.
Well, I think just inherently with work like this is what I would describe, you know, without saying all of the gripes and real challenges, it's highly complex. There's 17 cities in Polk County, over 600,000 people that we're trying to serve. So the complexities involved with that and the different elected decision makers, and everyone has skin in the game, and it becomes highly complex. But, you know, essentially it's the fundamental problem that most people across the country have, that I have, which is there is a great need and there's too few resources to fill that need. And I don't think I'm alone in that challenge. So that really is what all the other challenges that I face and that we as a staff face come from.
And one of the things that you guys have behind you, not only great leadership, but also a great board and really visionaries when it comes to this. Talk to me about the work that the board works with you hand in hand in tackling these challenges.
You know where to start, right? You're going to ask me other questions like that today, and I'll probably react the same way. I'm just one guy. I'm just one guy with some ideas and that wants to do a good job and be a good steward of the taxpayer dollar. So to say that our board is supportive and innovative is a gross understatement. What they just allowed us to do over the past 60 days, which was to test this essentially design idea for a new way of doing transit, I mean, it's really unheard of. I feel like I do a pretty good job of researching what goes on throughout the industry, and you just don't see where your decision makers, your board of directors get behind the transit professionals in the job and say, okay, guys, you can, because they assume all the risk, right? When you test things out with the community, there's a potential for people to get very excited about it. And now how does a board then say yes or no to it? So they took a lot of, you know, political courage to get behind this idea, and I'm very fortunate for that, because it is a hard job, and trying to make something like this work, it's a radical change for our riders and our citizens, comes with its own pushbacks, and without that support, obviously I couldn't do it, right? I couldn't do it, and it's at their direction as well. They essentially told us that they want us to do more with less. So figure that out without their support, right? It wouldn't work without it.
Exactly.
So it's fundamental to what I do.
Well, Aaron, we want to talk a little bit about restructuring the routes and what the users of Citrus Connection will see within the future. Talk to me a little bit about some of the things that they're going to be going through.
Well, I think you got probably two categories of what they're going to go through. One is just the natural, human condition. It's change. And we will do everything we can to inform the public, especially most of our riders. 87% of the people riding transit every single day are transit dependent, which means it's a huge part of their life is what that means. Just like you or me or anyone else, we have our routines we get into. You go to work a certain way, and it becomes part of who you are. And when you change that, you're going to come with a whole bunch of set of challenges, just change in and of itself. So I think that's one category. And then the other category is the specificities, right? Like my bus left at 8:44 at this stop for whatever particular individual throughout the system, and it now leaves at 8:38. That's a small example, but it could be even greater. You built your job around that. You have to be there at a certain time. Your kids get home to help with their homework. I mean, these are things that you think about to try to design a transit system. The truth is it's impossible to design it and satisfy all those things. It can't do everything. So there'll be some specific challenges for people too. The sign looks different, for example. So instead of having a booklet and a route map and you find yourself on the map, we still are going to offer those tools that our riders use today, but it's going to be a timeline. You are here and you want to travel to there. So it's more visual. Again, all the other stuff still exists, but just that finding out how to circumnavigate it and then getting used to those idiosyncratic, changes for them uniquely. That was a long answer, but that's...
No, it was perfect, honestly. One thing I don't think the folks at home realize, how many different routes are we dealing with prior to, and then what will we be dealing with afterwards, and then how many times do those buses run those routes?
Impossible to answer that question just like with one flat answer, because some of the routes, for example, the 10 and the 14 run in East Lakeland. We only did this in Lakeland, so we're talking about basically 8 routes.
Okay.
But some of the routes have more than one bus on it. Some of the routes start at 6:15, some of them start at 8, some end at 4, some end at 6. So it's a specific question what you're asking, but in general, most routes ran for 12 hours.
Okay.
They'll now run for 14 hours.
Okay.
So is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
and then will there be more runs per hour, or will there be less runs per hour?
Great question. More runs per day.
Okay.
So without telling you how the sausage is made, essentially we wanted to give 14 hours from 12 hours, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the general. Some it's even greater of a difference. So if a bus runs an area 12 times a day, right, today, like we do as we're speaking, having this conversation before the change, and it's on an hour interval, by changing the interval, you change how long you can do it. So you can't just expand transit without adding buses and people. What we had to do is change the way we did transit, which is what we did. So we combined those 8 routes into 5. So you have multiple buses running on them, and they run in opposing directions. We try to keep all that stuff I just said from, not keep it from people, but we don't highlight it in that way. We just explain that this is your bus, this is how it goes from A to B. It starts earlier and ends later. The specifics will come just as our transit system comes now, right? And that actually got released this week, the last week in July. So you can go to our website, Reroute 2020, and see those changes.
When folks come to live in Central Florida, be a part of the Polk County community, we talk quality of life, parks, we talk, things that would bring him here, good paying jobs, and an important part of this aspect is the transit system. Talk about the important role that it takes and makes, other people's lives a better place, Polk County, the place to work, live, and play.
So it's a huge part of it. I mean, it's a major driver in how we actually designed each one of these routes, like the specifics. If you get on a bus every day at 8 a.m. and you have to get off that bus at 4:15 because it's the last run of the day, or even 5:15, it's real hard to get to regular hours at a job. You know what I mean? So we built the system in that way. It starts at 5:45 in the morning, all routes that we changed. So what was 8 intercity routes is now the 5 routes. They're going to start at 5:45 a.m. The last bus comes in on each of those routes around 7:45 to 7:55, so almost to 8 o'clock at night because of those reasons. So, I mean, it was a major driver. I know I've said that already, but if you think about it, how do you go to work when you have to catch the bus at 8:30 and you have to be at work at 8? And then you got to be at work at 7 in the morning on different days, or, everyone has their own thing. So we really wanted to contribute to what you're saying, what Polk County has to offer. In order to do that, though, we have to take care of who's here now. These people that are transit dependent trying to do what they're in, because it's going to help everybody. If you own a business, it's going to help you get your employees to your business. If you run a business and you need customers to your business. But work was a major thing, and being able to get to where you need to do for work, life, play, whatever it is, it's a huge deal. I mean, it really, I think people underestimate how much transit impacts your life. Even if you're not a transit rider, think about where you live, why you live there, where you work, why you work there, because of proximity for transportation. And I don't think people really fully grasp how much transportation dictates our daily decision making. So, major driver, long way of saying major factor.
Well, we just have a few minutes left, Aaron. What I'd like you to do is let the folks that know at home how there's going to be growing pains,
Sure.
and there's going to be, you guys are going to work with people. Let them know, reassure them that this is a process that's going to be better for them.
Yeah. So, you know, for all of those at home that want to know, I would say the people that use the service might want to use the service, and we encourage you to do. Come try us out. Come try our new bus routes. For all of those people listening, I would just encourage you to give it a chance. It was designed for you. Over the last 60 days, we used the community's input and incorporated that feedback into the design of the system. So give it a chance. We encourage you to have a positive attitude about it and use it. If you don't ride transit, please support it as well. I say that because this is an exercise whereby we have increased our service level on the street to our citizens without adding a single tax dollar. And so what I hope the outcome of that is that our elected officials and represented decision makers understand that we're good stewards of that dollar. So ride it or not, please pay attention and support the system. It's designed for you. We're going to run it for you, and we're going to do the best we can to get it to where it needs to be with the resources that we have. That'd be my final message.
Well, Aaron, thank you very much for coming in. Look forward to seeing the success of the restructure, and look forward to having you in again on the show.
Thank you very much for your time and attention. It was great having me.
Reroute 2020 is a Citrus Connection transit initiative to restructure and simplify the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. Each one of the new routes accomplishes the same things that the current routes do now. The routes do not eliminate any current service area or bus stop. The routes will begin earlier in the day and end later in the evenings. The system is created to be more user-friendly. Now, if you need more information, you can look them up on the web at www.ridecitrus.com or give them a call at 863-534-5500.